Hi everyone, it's Eddie. Welcome back for a new video, and today we're gonna talk about Fear Street. Fear Street, where the lesbians are saving the world. Actors first, external factor, how it was made, because I have a few things to say about that. How similar some things are to Stranger Things. The plot, and then the message that they're trying to bring with this movie. I think we need a little appreciation that I tried, like I try every time I'm making a review, to dress like the spirit of the movie or like the characters. That's my pajamas, okay? So if you see stains on it, that's normal. That's my pajamas. Okay, so that's the first movie that I'm going to review that has this low rating, which is around 6 and 6.5 on IMDb. Like, the first one is 6.2, which I find surprising because I don't agree at all. I don't agree at all. However, I don't agree that this should have such a low rating. Yes, the styles may be a bit too modern. There's a little things that here and there are a bit ticking. So at the beginning with Heather, there's a problem of continuity with the knife, and also the fact that the undead killer actually kills Sonny Valers, the boyfriend of Sam at the time, and also the fact that it kills random people when they don't have Sam's blood on them. So that's a problem of continuity and also plot holes. A lot of people are mad that the characters are morally grey, or at least are not perfectly white and have issues with them. That's the entire point! That's the entire point! We're going to talk about that later on with the plot. For the actors, I decided to put that first because I thought that it was the category where I would go the fastest on from the first movie to the third, because I'm not talking about the fourth movie of Fear Street here. I'm only going to talk about the first trilogy. I'm talking about the trilogy because the last one I think is going to be a disaster. I don't have any issues with the actor. I think they all played well, and that's something we have to give a props to, to give a positive review of. Their acting is fine. I'm not praising it and say it's extraordinary, but it's fine. It's good acting. Now, let's talk about how it was made and the external factor. Like always, when I talk about the external factor, I have to talk about the fact that there's some good and some bad, okay? But in general, in the filmmaking process, I feel like they did really well. Also, there's a lot of similarities to Stranger Things. Why? First of all, she inspired herself from the books that I didn't read. I didn't even know that it was linked to books, because I always go with the most empty of expectation mind. What the fuck did I just say? Anyways. So I didn't know. So I don't know if the idea of the monster melting from that living thing is something from the books or something that she invented herself. However, it's so similar to the monster of the Mind Flayer of Stranger Things season 3, of all of the people that died, making the shadow monster. It's similar. It looks quite the same. I don't know. It just felt really, the songs, how they used, and that's where we're going to talk about the typical thriller, the typical slasher type of things we just saw. I think that's what makes it good, Fear Street is the typical slasher type that went out in the 90s, 80s. It's like typical slasher, and they're playing into that. The fact that it's really typical by adding something that was not typical at that moment and twisting the plot, giving you expectations and turning them around. That's how they use it. They're using the codes of the thrillers, the ominous music, the ambient songs, the characters, the typical slasher characters. There's the people that takes drug, the one that sells drug, the cheerleader, there's the lesbian character, and they're just playing around the tropes with the jocks, etc. They're playing around the typical slasher type movie, and I think that was the goal, to play around with that. They're using vintage nostalgia, the old times, The colors, the neons, they're playing with that. They are playing around it. They are making obvious references to movies like Scream or Friday the 13th, but also inspiring themselves from the real life killers, which is probably inspired the author of the books himself before that. Inspired himself from real life killer, and then Lee inspired herself from other real movies, from other movies and from other real life killers to create this ensemble. There's a lot of references to a lot of shows and a lot of foreshadowing, which is why I want to make videos specifically of the detail of Fear Street, because when I saw it and I saw the opening, I was like, there's details to uncover and to read into, and maybe that would give an even better reading of the story. The intro gives you so much information. It's so good. You pause the intro so you can read everything that is on your screen. It gives a lot of information. It gives a lot of insight about the universe you're in. And I think that's such a genius move. To be like able to rewatch it and get new information, to get new things, and to realize that from the first movie, you already kind of know what's about to happen. The scene where Good kills the slasher, which is clearly reference to Scream, by the way. When Good kills Ryan Torres, the way they're filming it, it's evident and the most obvious way to show that Good is indeed evil, and that is not good. The joke is playing itself. Like I said, there's an entire vocabulary around good versus evil, Sunnyvale, shady side. Sunny, shady, wow. Shady is the one that we shit on because shady also have a lot of shady shit, and Sunny is all good, etc. The imagery is the same. Shady side is being abandoned, stores are closing, but Sunnyvale looks so pretty. All the houses are extremely well made, extremely good. It's sunny inside, etc., etc. The blue being shady and the red being sunny, it's a reversing trope. I'm going to say that, but maybe I'm wrong. This is my own interpretation of things. The red directly links it to the devil. That's always how it's been, because for the longest time, the devil has been drawn red. So when you write it directly like that, and you call them Sunnyvale, you call them, they have the good. They're the good ones. They're the ones that are RP and everything is fine in it. But they're represented by the color red. You already know something is fishy. And the fact that they're putting such a weight on being something sunny, something good, you know it's not good because it's too good for it to be true. And then after that, they have the color red, and you know. Well, let's talk about the witch right now to make the link to the plot. They're using the witch for the first and second movie as if she was the bad person, as if she is the one that actually hurts people, etc., etc. They're using the typical idea that witches are bad, that witches are the ones that should be killed, that witches are evil women, which is rhetoric that has existed for a very long time, which links to the witches' trials, where most of the time it was just women that learned to do medicine, or women who rebelled too much, or women that did things that were not common for people, and therefore ended up in being called witches. Of course, also linked to homosexuality, and I'm waiting for the plot and the denunciation and all of the message to talk about the lesbianism. Of course, I know you're waiting for that, you came for that, I know it, so we're going to talk about that really clearly later on. By the way, if you like this video for now, you can consider subscribing. It's free. It's free, and if you don't like my videos, you don't have to watch them, but I think you like my videos. And that you are actually liking them so much that you're going to give me a like on this video too. And that you're also going to comment on how good this video is. That's a problem. I laugh at my jokes before I finish them. This is very awkward. The typical thing in the audience mind that witches are bad and that they shouldn't be associated with good, and that she's the one that is creating shady side and has a lot of problem because the town is cursed. And it's the story that has been made up and fed into people's mind to believe it. And because of her differences and the fact that she loved a woman, she got killed and did what she could to spare Anna's life, which is really sad. I teared up. Of course I cried. I always cry. I think I'm going to go further into the idea and the message behind them being lesbian and behind Officer Good and the man in power, etc., etc. We're going to go and talk into that later on. For now, let's follow the plot. In general, the plot is quite okay. Like I said, it's a typical slasher thing, and by the third movie, I won't lie, I on the surface, I like it. I like this plot, I like this idea, but there are some points where I'm like, okay, this is maybe over the top. Maybe it's a bit too much. But they're mixing comedy with horror. They're mixing, well, it's a slasher, you know, they're mixing comedy, of course. Like the typical trope of the slasher where they all fuck at some point. So that's all I have to say about the plot in general. I mean, it's a reversing trope. The second you add supernatural elements to your story, everything is justified by the supernatural elements, so you don't have restrictions. So it's kind of like a pact with the devil, okay? So Sunnyvale can thrive, and Shadyside are the sacrifices. It's a supernatural plot with witches and pacts with devils, so I really don't have much to say. But the story in itself, apart from the fact that it's a very typical supernatural story of a pact with the devil, I like it. It's amazing to me. I like it to watch it. I watch it in one go, so the first movie to the third in the same day. And I liked it. I enjoyed myself watching this. I like the story, I think, a lot because the meaning behind being queer and how everything kind of links together with how being different can cause problems to you in life. I saw a lot of critics being like, the main character, Dina, is kind of toxic and all that. It's like, yes, that's the whole thing. First of all, there's the whole fucking curse about Shadyside, and the whole environment is toxic. It's not just about her being bad. She lives in a very toxic environment which feeds into this idea of being like that and having a wrong behavior a lot of time because it feeds into it. The curse created this environment where Shadyside is really bad to live in. And that's why that at the end of the movie, the third movie, we see that with the post-it on the door, like next to the door, the dad found a job. There's no longer beer cans layered around because finally, after the curse got removed, well, the entire Shadyside finally got a breath of fresh air, and the environment got less toxic progressively, probably, and because of that, the characters themselves got rid of their bad parts because Shadyside was feeding into this. Sunnyvalers are bad because they're just pretentious people that has a lot of privilege into living in a town where everything, when you live into that town, is offered to them. And because of that, they nurture this environment where they become extremely pretentious and mock the poor. This is exactly, we can have this comparison in real life. Poor people being mocked by rich people. People don't hold a lot of things. They have to work a lot. We have to work a lot. We have to work multiple jobs to be able to live, etc. Well, rich people, billionaires, are out there living their best life and mocking poor people because it's easy. They have it easy, so they can. The entire problem of being gay in this society, so being a lesbian. Lesbians save the world with their love, especially Dina's love for Sam. It's very beautiful that she loves her so much, even though they have flaws, okay? Their relationship have flaws, but who doesn't have flaws in their relationship? Exactly, I don't know. There's a lot of good points, a lot of good things that comes with this denunciation, this message, where being queer is directly frowned upon, and they have direct homophobia in the 90s too. And I just want to bring the message that this is still happening today. There are so many countries where being LGBTQ results in going to prison, or in some cases getting murdered. You need to get out of this Western idea, because the message of this film is extremely strong. 2 countries like that, 4 countries like that. Because there are some countries where what happened in 1666 happens today in the modern world, replacing being hanged on by prison or sometimes being just killed by people. This condition is just a mirror of what we live in real life for lesbians. So we should talk about the message that they're giving to lesbians and to the other people and to the other world. They're using that typical slasher type of thing to give you a message of what being a lesbian is like in society, of being frowned upon, and about lesbians themselves deciding to say fuck off to everyone else and to love each other regardless. Samantha's mom is what keeps them apart. Samantha has been fed that she would end up exactly like Dina, that they would have a bad life, that they would be alcoholics probably, you know, how Samantha felt that Dina would end up like her dad, etc., etc. She would have been included in that future, but she didn't want to be because she was too scared. She wanted a good life, and she was told that she would not have a good life. So we're feeding into that thing, into that idea, and so she ran away to Sunnyvale, which Dina didn't take well, and she's the one that broke up with Samantha. And of course resulted in this whole fiasco. You're going to tell yourself, like, oh my god, how can you be so mad that someone changed town? But it's because Sunnyvale and Shadyside, for the longest of time, has been in a battle of, you know, being mocked, etc., etc. Even I felt that it was over the top that she was mad at that. And I think it was really to make the point that Sunnyvale and Shadyside are separated and are not mixed at all. But I felt too that it was a bit over the top. And now there's also a whole thing about misogyny and how men of power can easily get out of things. Generations, and no one found out that cave. No one found out that good was evil. It's like men of power have it so easy, especially when they're white. And we see that when we have Martin is accused of something he didn't, of something that Good did. But no, it gets to jail because it's accusing a black man for doing that is so easy. It's so easy to accuse a black man, to put him in prison for something a white guy did, a white guy that is himself. It's also another denunciation of real things happening in the world. It goes deeper than just being a slasher, and that's why I like this story. They're using typical things, so much stereotypes, that at the end it ends up being comical and something that ends up being great, and I like it. Not everything needs to be a new thing. A criticism of men of power, but also conformity. It's how as you as a person can easily lose yourself if you follow what people tells you to follow, and everyone ends up happy at the end, getting their closure and justice. And it's like, yeah, they finally get what they want. They finally get what they need. At the end, Josh actually meets the girl he's been talking to online. At the end, they finally hit their burgers by the stone, where Sarah Fear can finally rest in peace. Ziggy can find Mary Lane so she can actually have her closure too for her daughter. And, you know, it's a movie that ends well. Making a 4th movie though. For the ending, I'm going to talk about a general things to make the conclusion. I really like those movie. I really like going into different era. I liked unfolding the plot little by little. I liked how they give you a bit of confusion sometime with Good. And yeah, I really liked it. I really liked the feeling of Ziggy that got betrayed by good, who finally thought she was understood by someone but actually got played with. Of course, sometimes I was like, okay, this is a bit over the top, but it's a slasher created from books that are made for teenagers, so I don't expect it to be such a grand cinematography. Like, I never go into a movie with expectations, because if I have expectations, my feelings about it will get troubled. That's why Wuthering Heights, for example, is criticized a lot. A lot of people have expectations from what they read from the books, and then they saw the movie, which felt more like a fan fiction of the books than an adaptation of the books. So they were shocked, and the crush was higher than someone who goes unknowingly of anything that goes on in the books. Of course, I talk broadly about the story because it's a review, but like I said, I'm going to make a video about the details. I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you have a great day, night, whatever. Bye!